I think here at DSE, the one interesting technology I've seen is the 4K screens. I mean, if you don't leave here impressed by the resolution of those screens and the beauty of the images and the content that's displayed, then you've missed out. And I don't see how you can possibly do that. I think among the things that I've seen here, that has been the most impressive. It's not necessarily something that we would use in the New York City subway environment. We may use it in other buildings, but as far as my network operator colleagues, my gosh, I would love to be able to use it. I just think they're beautiful. Just like HD, it's like you can see the pores. So I don't know if, you'd have to really no, they're not kind at all, but the content, the vividness. I was watching, it showed a model turning, and she had on this yellow and black sort of dress, and usually you get that, whoosh. It just looked like I was watching it right in person. It's amazing, the resolution. The first thing I would say is talk to your technical people right away if you have technical people in-house. If you don't, get a good integrator that you can work with, because one of the things we realized early on is that in the subway environment where we are in New York, our infrastructure is old, it's ancient. Parts of the subway are going to be 110 years old this year. So for us, the technical issues of networking and having enough cable and power and connectivity is huge. Now, my situation is probably more extreme than anybody else's, but technically, I would be concerned about connectivity. I would be concerned about power and those issues, and that's the first thing I would look at. And then I would go and look at the screens and the various players, but I think connectivity and your ability to power and keep stable power, I think is an important thing as a network that I would look at as a network operator. You've got to be able to sustain. It doesn't, whatever your content is, and if you want an advertiser to buy into your network and support you, they have to know that you're going to be on and you're going to be able to provide them with the play that you said that you could. And if you can't do that because of network issues or connectivity, or you can't get 4G, or the Wi-Fi is not going to work, or you've got problems with telco, that's a huge issue. So I would make sure I had that button down first. And then I would worry about what kind of player, what type of screen, and of course content. But again, that comes later. I think you've got to get the basics down, the fundamentals down of your network, and that's the core. I think it has to be engaging but not overpowering. I think you have to be clear in what you're going to do with your content. A lot of people like to put a lot of whiz, bang, boom, movement, motion. They're not going to concentrate on that, or if they do, they may miss the core message. I think you have to first figure out what your core message is, and then figure out how to dress it up around that. You don't want to be overpowering, but you don't want to be minimalist either. I'm someone who's a mid-century modernist type of person anyway. I like elegance, I like clean design, so that's just my personal preference. But you've got to figure out who your audience is. If you're in an auto shop, there might be men in 18 to 35. That's a different audience than if you're in retail and you're in women's clothing or jewelry. So you've got to know who your audience is, what your message is, and what you want to communicate to them. And then from there, you can work around dressing it up and making it look whiz, bang, boom, or not. In general, our infrastructure is a unique challenge. Like I said, parts of the subway are going to be 110 years old today. So getting past and getting over those hurdles of connectivity, trying to use 4G Wi-Fi where we can, and then just the physical infrastructure about where you're going to place these things. We have certain restrictions on where certain things can be. We have tiles that are historic. You don't want to mess up the tile. You don't want to necessarily mess up the floor. So there are a lot of infrastructure issues that are probably more unique to the New York City subway environment than they are to any other transportation provider. But I think the other thing you should try to concentrate on if you're in transportation is getting the best information to customers. You want to provide information to customers that are going to impact them at the point of decision making as a transit operator or as a transit rider. That's key, and I think placement of screens, the information that you're going to convey, that's key. I think one of the biggest challenges that I've heard from my fellow delegates here at DSE 2014 is mobile. How to integrate mobile into your digital signage, because advertisers want to have that engaging experience with their customers. And so I think it's incumbent upon us as an industry to figure out how to build in mobile in a sustainable way so that it's always going to be there, right? So that an advertiser knows that if I have a mobile campaign, I can do it with this digital signage. It's another outlet for it. I think the other issue that we have to face is standardization. We need to be able to measure our networks, right? We need to be able to show advertisers that our networks have value, and we have to have a standard way of doing that. And I think the industry needs to work on, whether it's with the Digital Place-Based Advertising Association or the OAAA or whoever, to figure out what those standards are. Let's use them collectively as an industry, and that way we can propel the industry forward. And I think that's really key. I think one of the things I've been impressed this year is the amount of international participants. I mean, I was blown away when I was told that they did a whole pre-conference day in Spanish. I think that's huge. And not just because I'm from New York and I'm half Spanish, but just because it just shows the globalization of DSE and where it's really going. The industry is truly a global industry, and the more we can bring folks over from different countries, whether it's Europe, Latin America, wherever, Africa, that would be great, and that would just grow the industry more. That's what I mean. That's one thing I was really impressed with. I know the technology is amazing. I mean, everybody's got something that you go, wow. And I told people when I visited in 2013 that I left overwhelmed because there is so much out there, and the technology is so fabulous that you can't help but go, wow, the industry is really in a good place.